Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to the Mindshare Podcast, a founding member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at industrysyndicate.com and mindshare101.com. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 17. So I was just speaking at two separate events, and these two were extra special for me. Not only was I speaking alongside some of the best marketing experts in the country, but these guys are also part of our industry syndicate. Since we were in one place at the same time, we took the opportunity to light up the mic and do a roundtable episode, broadcasting from Scottsdale, Arizona. In this episode, you're going to hear from four friends of mine. Chelsea Peitz. She's a best-selling author, national speaker, the Instagram story queen, an awesome friend, the host of the Voice of Social Sales podcast, and a founding member of the syndicate. Dustin Brohm. He is the founder of Search Salt Lake, a national speaker, the host of the Massive Agent podcast, an awesome dude, and one of the Industry Syndicate co-founders. Thom, an entrepreneur, an expert in Facebook advertising, and in fact, he consults for Facebook on this very same topic, and he is also a national speaker. And Frazier. He is plainly put, the man. He is my brother from another mother. He is the owner and founder at The Agent Marketer, the voice of the Agent Marketer podcast, a national speaker, a guru of all things technology, and also a co-founder and producer at the Industry Syndicate. This is a really special episode, and I'm really excited to have this awesome crew on with us. You're about to hear from the best. Enjoy. We're here in Arizona, and for the first time today, I actually leaned on a saguaro. Now, for most people that don't know what a saguaro is, that's a cactus. It's what we call a cactus, but they got like really fancy names down here. Anyhow, learning a lot, having a lot of fun. Sitting around a table right now with some of the... Actually, pardon me, guys. I apologize. I'm sitting around the table right now with the best in the absolute industry. I got Chelsea Peitz, Dustin Brohm, Thom, Mr. Frazier right here. This is the Mindshare Podcast. We're just ripping a quick episode here. We are going on stage today. We're going to be talking with Chicago Title. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going over branding. We're going over, essentially social media, how to really take your game and step it up a level. Speaking of branding right now, I figured I'm going to lean into you guys a little bit, see what maybe pieces of insight we might be able to share with some of our audience today. Dustin, start us off, brother. Talk to me about branding, man. Like, everybody's trying to up their game on social. Everybody's trying to do something to really build their brand and, get their name out there a little bit more, what I like to call mindshare. Give us some tips. Give us something. Yeah. That, you might give some advice to the audience on that.
Something good.
Oh, something good.
Something good.
All right, I'm going to need some time to prepare.
By the way, folks, be forewarned. I got Jason and Dustin in the exact same room on the exact same microphone. I have no idea where we're about to go with this, but this could get fun, so stay tuned.
There should be a warning label on this episode. No, so like we talked about at the event yesterday, branding, so much of branding, or what people should focus on with their branding, is letting people get to know them. So even if they're building a team, even if they have a brand, people still don't want to hire the brand. They want to hire the person who's with the brand. The brand might bring some credibility or name recognition, but then somebody wants to make a personal connection. So if you're not out there on Instagram stories, on Facebook, on Snapchat or whatever, or TikTok, Chelsea, showing people who you are.
I learned about TikTok yesterday.
I know it's a weird thing. You'll have to talk about TikTok, but let people get to know you. And you can use any of the tools available. There's no one right or wrong way to do it. Just let people see who you are. Some people will keep watching. Some people will connect with you. Some won't. You'll attract the right people. But making that personal connection, when people know, like, and trust you, that's how you do it.
And so many people that are going, I don't want to be on social. It's not me. It's not who I am. I don't get out there and I don't want to share my life with people.
Yeah,
right?
They only post about rates, or they only talk about their open house or their listing or anything. Like, they should be doing that less than 10% of the time. They should be focused on them, what they're doing that day, their family life. I mean, and they don't have to show all the super personal stuff. You don't have to show your kids if that makes you feel uncomfortable. But if you don't mind letting people have a glimpse in, do that. Because then like whenever I see somebody and they have young kids that are like the age of my kids, it's that connection. You make a connection with that person because you can relate to them.
Yeah, totally.
And if it's all business, all real estate, all the goddamn time, there's no way to make a connection with somebody.
It's just boring there, right?
It's boring.
And Chelsea, it's funny. I have stolen your line so many times about tell people about date night, but you don't have to tell them what you're talking about. What kind of things can people maybe post about, or suggestions like that kind of give somebody that breakdown to just drop the barrier, break the ice? Like we were talking yesterday with some of the folks that were there at the event, and one lady was saying to me, she's like, oh, I could take a picture of the golf course and be like, this is my office for the day. I'm like, yeah, do that. She's like, well, I don't really know. People don't really want to know about me. They don't really care. I'm like, you're totally misreading this entire thing I'm like, because I said to her, I said, are you on social? She goes, yeah. I said, do you scroll? She says, oh yeah, I'm eating a sandwich, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Of course I'm scrolling. I'm like, so why aren't you posting? Well, I don't know what to post.
I get that question, number one, all the time. I do not know what to say. I don't know what to post. My life is boring. Nobody cares. I don't like watching other people's lunches. Okay, we got it. But here's the few things that I want to talk about is, this is going to sound kind of funny, especially coming from somebody who does, document their life every day and talk about content. But really, sometimes people don't even really care as much about what they say as long as they're showing up consistently. Yeah. People love consistency. It's my Target theory. We all like going to Target, even when we're on vacation, because we feel like we know where everything is. So it's that feeling of they're always showing up. So if you're always showing up, even if you're talking about something, quote, boring, like, mortgage tips, title tips, real estate tips, buyer tips, that may not seem like something that's super exciting, but the consistency will not only help you create content on a regular basis and come up with more ideas to create content, but people will see you. You're putting billboards on the highway. They're seeing your face. You're showing up. Now, as far as what to say, you mentioned the dinner date example.
I think it was a great one.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, well, I'm really private. Well, there's a big difference between personal, which is relatable, and private. I can be personable and show people that I'm human, that I'm, getting together with you today. There's a picture of us. They might see, what I'm doing on the weekends, but I don't have to share the nitty-gritty of my conversations at the table or overshare. It's okay if you want to get to that level of your life, but having the human element. And I know, by the way, people who kill it. I did it for 2 years. I was not personal at all. I only did marketing tips. That built a brand for me. You can do it both ways, but the key on both is being consistent.
It's totally about consistency. I'm going to be talking about that today. I talked about that yesterday. It's something that I drive home with my message all the time, because it's more about the fact that you're there and that people see you and they start to connect with you and they can build that relationship with you, rather than necessarily what you're always talking about. And so it's like when you do record a video and you forget to turn the sound on and whatever, it's people see you, they can relate to it, it's personable. And I joked about it yesterday, but I'll literally back that post up and be like, yeah, next time remember to turn on the sound.
Right.
And naturally that's what happens. That little chuckle happens. They're like, oh, real human being. Right. And that's a big deal. So in terms of channels and different places we can spread that message across, because we've got video, we talk about voice. We were just having a joke about camera first or whatever. But channels, in terms of not that most people understand what was going on there, but in terms of channels, knows what that is. Discrimination. What kind of channels should people be using on a regular basis to get their message out there?
Well, we talked about this yesterday at the event, and I had mentioned, especially for that one loan officer that was talking about, should I start with Facebook? I always say Facebook, and the reason why is that every other channel, whatever content you're doing, you could do on Facebook. Facebook is long form text. It's just posting image. It's GIFs. It's video. It's stories. It's everything. Like Instagram has, it's not long form, right? You have stories and you have images, right? LinkedIn, long form, but you can do most of that on LinkedIn. Live's coming to that. YouTube is just video. You can't do long form on that. Facebook is where you could do anything. Facebook is basically your gateway drug to all of social media. If you master that channel, then you'll be able to easily start on Instagram, because maybe you've already done stories on Facebook, so doing stories on Instagram isn't a big stretch, right? Mm-hmm. You've done images on Facebook, so doing that on Instagram isn't a big stretch. Long form on Facebook, doing that on LinkedIn for thought leadership, that is a huge thing. So those, for me, Facebook is, and then not only that, but it's one of the biggest advertising platforms, obviously. So why would you not do Facebook, right? But at the same time, like we talked about yesterday, is that if you're listening to this and you don't want to do every channel, like you don't like LinkedIn or you don't like Facebook, you don't like Instagram or YouTube or whatever, you can find success on any one of those channels. It's great to diversify. That's the best advice. But find the channel that you're more comfortable with. Find the channel that you get. Now you have to get you got to get pushed from it, right? So you could love LinkedIn. I'm not doing anything on LinkedIn, and if you got crickets for months and months and months and months, try something else, right? Like you have to get a business push from it. Otherwise, you're just talking. And so that's to me, the channel has to fit how you are as a person. Some people love LinkedIn and nothing else. Some people love Facebook and nothing else. Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is. But I've known successful marketers and successful agents and loan officers that have chosen just the one channel and been plenty successful doing that.
I thought that was a great point you made yesterday when you said that.
I thought so too, David.
Yeah, well, we're going to give. I know, we'll give them like one.
Yeah, now it sucks. Yesterday it was.
It's funny. There's a moment there. There's like so many compliments going across the panel that like Dustin and I were like, "Does Jason have a fever?" Like maybe something. But no, you brought up a wicked point about Facebook being sort of that platform where. Yep. Like long form and images and video and this and that. Like it's a great point right there for anybody. And I think that it's funny too because I think that there's a lot of the younger demographic that you'll ask them, be like, yeah, you on Facebook? They're like, nope.
Yep.
But they're all over Instagram. They're doing that stuff. And so again, they're leveraging a platform. So on that, would we say that for a lot of people, because, and Dust, we had this conversation, I think it was yesterday as well, about like a lot of people don't know where the power button is. And as silly as some people might be finding that, the reality is that is a reality for a lot of people. And when we look at our industry and we look at the folks that are making the money, the ones that are out there doing what they're doing, hey, we got to remember they've been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years. These are pros. Like they did not start off with this type of technology. So now it's going, okay, it's not who I am. I have no idea what to post. I don't know where to start. I don't know what platform to use. Facebook being a great stepping stone to that, and then from a measurements perspective, it's are you starting to get the engagement from people? Are you starting to get the traction off of it? Right?
Yeah. And one thing I want to, because you mentioned the millennial thing. One thing, because I've talked with a lot of millennials, obviously, about the whole Facebook thing, and what I found out is that maybe they don't start on Facebook, but they get there because they get a job. So to me, like I equate it to when I started working in the corporate world. I worked for Safeco Insurance. And I wanted to move up. I wanted to know like the managers, know the executives, and try to just make a name for myself. They all played golf. That was my only in into getting in front of them. So I learned how to play golf. And so the same thing is with when I hear about millennials is they said I wasn't on Facebook until I got my first like real job, because then they want to connect with other coworkers who are most likely older to them, managers and whatever. They're all on Facebook. So it kind of happens just as you're trying to make a name for yourself. And the more entrepreneurial we are, the more small business and stuff, you have to get on Facebook no matter what age you are. Totally. So that's the thing, is everyone that's talking, well, young people are on Facebook, they will eventually be there because that's where
they're going to grow. They're going to be coming to it.
Yeah, and well, they already are, and it happens. I see it. Like my son, who has always said Facebook is for older people, he got a job.
No joke, that's how I feel.
Oh, it's no, like, and he told me that.
God, are we on the old people's
he's
social media?
He's on Facebook now because college and the professors doing stuff and people in his class that are older, because it's, he's got older people in his class and not just young people. So he's on Facebook now, an account. And so he said I had to move there because the people that I was talking to, that's the channel they use. So that's the thing, is it's just like, and that's why I equated it to me learning how to golf. If you're trying to, come up in the business world, you got to be where they are, and if they're all playing golf, then you'll learn how to play golf, right? And so if everyone's on Facebook and you got to make a name for yourself, you're trying to connect with them on a personal level, you're gonna have to get on Facebook. So
that was my point yesterday. I mean, like this social media stuff is like steroids for us, right? As like people, as salespeople, as businesses, entrepreneurs. We can go out to a group of people and talk to 5 people, 10 people. I was saying this to my hockey team the other day. Buddy of mine selling mortgages, and I said, he's younger than us per se, not that much younger, but he's not all over Facebook necessarily. He goes, it's not me. And I said, but you're trying to connect with people. He goes, yeah, but, and I'm like, no. We're standing in a circle right now, having a couple pops, and there's like 12 of us around, and we can have that conversation of like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. I'm like, but dude, I could pick this thing up, my phone, and literally connect with 200 people immediately. And that's where that window to the world really is. Now, Travis, here's my thing. I'm always big on the fact that if you're going to go out and start to really leverage these social medias to build your biz, you naturally want to take advantage of all the tools they offer to you, right? And that could be both organic and the paid stuff.
Right.
In my mind, before you should do anything paid, you should have your foundation laid. This is like building a house, right? you want to go ahead and start taking your content. You want to take anything you're putting out there and really get it out to a wider audience. Hey, you can now leverage these wicked tools that these social media platforms offer to us. But we've got to have a foundation of content and a foundation of call it followers or friends or the audience, the network of people. I'm curious to know sort of your thought on that, because I know a lot of folks, and for everybody that may not know, at least my audience, Travis is an absolute expert when it comes to Facebook marketing, advertising, how to really take your content and grow your audience and leverage, sort of build mind share across a wider audience. But I've said this to many guys that do similar things, and I go, there's only so much you can do if you haven't got the content to work with.
Right.
So my advice to people is, create your content, and that's where you can leverage the expertise of somebody like you.
So I think it goes a few different ways. It depends on where you are within your journey, right, with business. So if you already have a business established, then you should lead with probably an offer, right, something that's actually going to contribute to sales. If you don't have the mechanism to make money instantly from that, then you should be developing content and building up a brand that's going to be synonymous with whatever you're going to be building in the near future. Or then you use that content as basically analytical split testing to understand, what do people truly want? What product can I build out of that? Or what services can I align with what messages that I'm receiving? So there's a company called IDEO. My brother works for them. They're a design company on a global scale. They will create products that don't even exist yet, run Facebook ads to them, and see if people buy. And then if they buy, they'll refund the money and say, thanks, this was a test. But they can then understand what people really want, and then they'll build the product, right? So I think social media in general is a testing ground to really understand what people want, and then create a brand that is calling to those individuals, right? That's highly relevant to those people. So if you're moving through, take real estate for example. So you own a brokerage. And in this brokerage, you are already selling condos and townhouses. Then you know that a good majority of your content should be focused on the new urbanism lifestyle and everything around that, right? Walk scores and certain things like that, leading with that type of content. So it's one of those scenarios where you have to really look at what you're doing objectively and start to document what you can. I mean, Chelsea knows that. I've told her I probably have 300 pieces of content that I've never published,
right? Because
of fear, right? When I first started,
hold on, Phil. Wait.
Yeah.
Hold that thought, but because I don't mean to cut you up, but the fear thing,
right?
That was a big thing you just mentioned there. People react based on fear, but people also hold back based on fear. What are you fearful of?
Well, all those pieces of content was early on when I first started, and so
now is it the value that content's providing, or is it just, hey, I'm opening myself up, and I'm going somewhere with that because I think a lot of people listening probably have those fears. It's like,
or did you feel that because you were new, you didn't earn the right yet?
It was
right?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I'm inherently, I'm really, really private. My life is private, but my business life is not. Right. So with Chelsea, she's very open, right, with a lot of her content. Yeah. And when I first started, I was really battling. Okay, now I'm going to have to open up, right? Now I have to take pictures of me and be on camera. And I was coming from actually I had sold my brokerages, and I started then writing blog articles, doing SEO, because I didn't want to do anything on camera, right? So I eventually had to, because that's what was going to really sell, because I was tired of writing 5,000-word articles. And so at the end of the day, I was like, I just need to do a video and get it out there. So if there's people that are looking at building more content and they're afraid, you got to jump in.
You have to do it, right?
You got to do it. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. I wouldn't be at this table if I hadn't gotten over those fears. Right?
I think all of us can say the exact same thing.
Well, now your entire business is video.
Now my entire business
you are literally on camera every
video.
day.
Right. So it's something I've had to really, really get used to. But I would say that people need to think objectively about what they're doing, what they're creating, because they're surrounded by content on a daily basis. HGTV.
And we're overloaded with it too, right?
We're overloaded with it, but there's an amazing amount of value. We all have, I think, and every person does, every agent, every mortgage broker does, the curse of knowledge.
Yeah.
Where they say, tell us something. Like, I don't know anything. I have nothing to share. Well, tell me about 1031 exchanges, right? Or VA loans, right? And people have this knowledge that's built in them. They think, oh, people don't want to hear it, so I'm just going to keep it in, or I'm not going to provide any value. I'm not going to be able to contribute. But there's people that are thirsty for that knowledge, right? I mean, there's a lot of first-time home buyers that are coming into the market now. And those first-time home buyers, they are scared about how much do I have to put down. So there's whole conversations and content and information and videos and blog articles that you can create around that. I think what we're looking at right now is a lot of people have become dependent on portals, and they stopped investing in their brand several years ago because they didn't need to, because they were being spoon-fed, and then they would just double down as those would convert, right? So the ROI was high. So they decided, okay, Realtor.com, Zillow, I'll just keep putting money in the machine. Last week, I received a call from a guy that said, hey, I spend $500,000 on Realtor.com and $500,000 on Zillow every month.
Whoa. Wow.
I'm ready to shift it into Facebook, and we need someone to take that over.
Wow.
Those are the people, right, that said, we stopped investing in our brand because we were spending all the money into the portals, trusting them that we were going to have this long-term relationship. And now they're going, do people know us in our market? We have our past customers, but they really know our brand. Do they know what we stand for, our value proposition?
Right, and there's a great point. Is you drive down the road. We said billboards, right? Like you could drive down the road, see a billboard, and recognize the brand, recognize the company, but never actually have a real connection for any reason to go and deal with that individual. And I mean, when it comes to content, that's exactly the idea. Is you're putting something out there to allow people to connect more. And again, my belief becomes. And I think we're in agreement here. I'd love to hear if we're not, whatever, not right or wrong, but it's, in order to build that brand, you've got to start putting out the content, as you said. It's got to go out there. People got to start connecting with who you are. And I think before you need to be spending a ton of dollars. It's like, just do it. Like, get in there and start doing. And once you have that content, you can take it and start to go after that bigger, wider group. And I mean, again, coming back to the billboard, it's like, how many people are seeing that driving down the road every single day? But now if you can almost focus those efforts and say, look, I'm going to take that similar idea of a billboard, but I'm going to throw it on the screen where people can see it there. And you've already backed that up by having other content. You've been doing stuff organically. That's where it starts to really come to life, right?
Well, I think what's interesting, too, especially just piggybacking on what Travis just mentioned, and our industry in general just radically changing in probably the next 24 to 36 months, as it has already.
Yeah.
You can't depend on the one thing, right? Unless you're controlling it. Like, you control your brand. We had Facebook was down for a day,
oh my
and
God.
we lost our minds. And it just reminds us that you can't put everything on somebody else's stuff, right? You have a podcast. You control that. You have your website. You have a brand. You have content. And, even in Travis's expertise where your whole lifeblood is a business that, you have to work around the changes, and you have to figure out, and you're coaching your, clients who are coming to you and saying, listen, we need to figure out how we can generate your own customer audience and then work from there. So you always have to be thinking about, what if this went away tomorrow? Like, what if, my lead pipeline goes away because I'm investing in a company that is gone? Right. So you always have to, at least you always have your brand, and you always have the ability to make content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of content, I'm talking about the fact that the industry changes so quickly, right? We talk about voice a lot together, and where that's going. I know, again, Jay was like the catalyst to me to kind of go, dude, you've got to get into the podcast scene. You got to get into voice. And I mean, Dustin, we've talked a lot about like where you can consume it, right? Like how easy it is. Big changes coming in the industry for voice. What's our sort of suggestion to people about getting in on that?
Well, I would say, first off, if you're someone who's fearful of video, like Facebook Live scares you to death, recording Instagram stories and YouTube videos scares you, talk. Like, you could do a podcast, you could do a flash briefing, you could do a Facebook Live audio only. There's options available for people who don't want... depending on your strengths and weaknesses and likes and dislikes, there's a medium for you. You just have to pick one and focus on it. So it just happens to be an amazing, amazing time for voice. And when we say voice, we mean podcasting, flash briefing, because audiobooks have been a big deal for a long time.
I love audiobooks.
Right.
Yeah.
Even before MP3s came out, people would get the CDs, people would get the books on tape.
Tapes, yeah.
And listen in their car, right? Because then you could consume it while doing something else. Yep. They'd have their Walkmans, and they'd be walking the dog and everything, listening to a cassette tape. Now it's so easy with podcasts. First off, they're free, and there's always new content coming out every single day. There's no shortage of content out there. But at a local level, there's not. Like, even in Salt Lake City, still, there's like a handful of podcasts focused on the local community. And so if any agent or loan officer is like, I like the idea of podcasting, I don't know where to start, focus on just covering the local area. Go to, maybe a concert's coming, go to that, talk about that. Review a restaurant. Talk about, the best things to do for free with kids on a rainy day. Like, you can do blog article topics in podcast form. Just talk about it, and you put your own spin on it. People get to know you. Here's what's crazy about voice. So with YouTube videos, if you have an average watch time of about 5 minutes, you're killing it. That's great.
Yeah. Good advice.
With a blog article, if you have like 3 to 5 minutes time on page, you're doing great. Podcasting, people will listen to 45 minutes to 60 minutes
amazing.
at a time.
Yeah.
Like, my podcasts have now, they're now around an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and 80% are listened to. Like, the average time listened to is about 80 to 85%.
Nice.
So people are paying attention
right?
for a long period of time, and the stats show that they listen to every single episode. More than half of Americans are now listening to podcasts. So there's still a lot of room there. Like, to me, that's like, wow, no, there's only half of Americans listening to podcasts. That's opportunity.
Oh, it's huge opportunity, right? And for how many people are, again, as we just mentioned with fear, how many people are fearful of going out and putting out the content or getting the voice out, the video, or whatever. There's so few people in the grand scheme of it right now that are actually taking advantage of voice marketing.
Absolutely.
And I mean, to me, it's a double-edged sword, because I absolutely love it. Like, not only obviously recording podcasts and putting the content out there, but the way I consume the content, like, that's how I drive my car now. Like, I'm listening to somebody's podcast, one of your guys' podcasts, I'm listening to an audiobook. The double-edged sword for me is like, oh my God, I'm driving, I can't take notes right now, right? So it's like you get all these nuggets. And I mean, that's the other thing too. You walk away kind of going, as long as I can, take 1, 2, 3 nuggets away from this book or this podcast, you've learned something. That's the beauty of it. I mean, talk about, listen, I'm from Canada, so shoveling the snow. You could be talking about mowing the lawn, anything, working out, anything you're doing. It's too easy to consume there. Speaking to content then, right, and the types of things we put out, Jay, when we talk about having these different types of content, and we talked about the different platforms that are out there and how Facebook is one of those where, you can do your voice, well, you can do video, you can do the long form, everything else. What if I've got Facebook and I'm doing it, and I want to start expanding that reach? And I've really put out, these 300 pieces of content, right? I've put out all this content. Now I look and go, hold on a second. Do I have to start fresh on a new platform? Can I take that content? We talk about repurposing content.
Yep.
Just some forward thinking on that.
Well, it depends, because each channel is different, right? So you can't obviously really repurpose long form on Instagram, right? But you could repurpose that on LinkedIn, right? Video, you could obviously repurpose that on YouTube, but again, it comes down to minutes watched, right?
Yeah.
Is it really going to get a push and do for it? But just getting back, because I think we talked about the voice marketing, and Dustin was right on with focusing on the local content. Flash briefings. That's the thing that I would focus on. If you're doing, or if you really want to repurpose the content that you're doing, and you're focusing on your local market, which you should be doing, stuff that people actually care about.
You mean they shouldn't be trying to talk to the entire world?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah,
no.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah. Because again, that's the shotgun approach. Yes, you're gonna hit buckshot everywhere, and you will hit a couple targets, but sometimes you won't. Most of the time, you won't. So instead, be laser focused, right? So take that content that you're doing online, on Facebook or whatever, turn that into, because flash briefings are super quick. You could do 2 minutes and that's fine, 3 minutes, that's fine. You could just read it, right? So if you're doing a lot of long form thought leadership content on there, or talking about the local events that are happening, because I see people do their live videos all the time about what's going on in this weekend, what's going on in Scottsdale or whatever, right? Like, you take that and make that into a flash briefing. You already did the video. Take the audio out of that and make that your flash briefing.
Okay.
It's going to be 3 minutes. It's why not do that?
Quickly on that then, Alexa.
Yep.
Is the flash briefings.
Yes.
Just, I want to clarify for everybody.
Yeah, so Amazon Alexa.
In the event that, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, like, for me, and we've had this conversation, like, off mic, but I don't have an Alexa.
Yep.
I don't plan on putting one in my home right now. I don't like the fact that Big Brother is listening. And we can make the argument with these things, our phones as well. I got it.
We certainly
don't
could.
jump across the table now, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay? But the
Android.
for anybody there, just break that down for me quickly. Like, do they need to have an Alexa at home to,
They actually
to get
don't.
involved in flash briefings?
No, they don't. They just need to listen to it. You need to have the app on your phone. You need to create an account, but you don't need to have a device. And the one thing that I'll say about that is because my wife and I talked about how we would never have one in our home. Yeah. Now we got like 5 of them, like in a lot of rooms. Like kids use them. We control the house. We control our temperature. We control lights. We control
They're
lot
cool.
of.
Don't get me wrong.
They're fun. Well, they're efficient, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing is that I talk about quite a bit is understanding like where we've come from, the start of the internet age, and let's just say it's 2000, right? And we're 2019 now. Consumers have decided to give up a lot of privacy to live that online life because it's efficient use of their time, right? So we could debate whether it's a good thing, bad thing, Big Brother. At the end of the day, consumers have voted with their pocketbooks. They just don't care when it comes down to it. They want to be efficient. They want to like pay people Venmo. They want to, because think about this, Uber and Lyft, they know likely, if you looked at the data, they know where you work. They know where your kids go to daycare. They know what time you get home. You know what I mean? If you're really using that rideshare life, which a lot of people do, we're giving that data, but yet no one really talks about that. But we're doing that because it's efficient, and we need to be playing by the same rules as everyone else, right? And so if that's gonna be the way it is, and now that we've had data that now more for the first time ever, over half the population in this country are listening to podcasts. We have, I think last count, what was it, like an extra 30 million devices that were activated after Christmas. Like this is a real thing, and this is where people are going to go. So because look, everything, chances are, if you've heard one of us speak, you listen to one of our podcasts, you've seen us on a video, you've seen Chelsea on Instagram or whatever, the stuff we're talking about isn't like things that you haven't heard before. But what I think we could all agree on is that the rise of voice, whether it be flash briefings or podcasting, is a first mover opportunity because some agents and some loan officers, we're going to get into it, we talked about that yesterday,
so new,
and they'll do it for a month or two and then they're going to drop off. If you're invested in this long term, and all the people that we know that have decided to make podcasting a part of their life, all of them have got a huge reach on their brand, a huge push in their business, and it's something where consumers are going to anyway, like with what Dustin talks about, because you can be efficient with your time and do other things, right? So as far as repurposing the content, if I'm looking at channels that do it, I'm doing on flash briefings because as mainstream media, like big news channels, CNN and stuff, start doing flash briefings and people start hearing about them for the first time, they're going to be looking. About 60% of my growth is organic on Amazon. It isn't people from my network. It's just people that they found me by looking on Amazon.com.
And there's a big point there is you haven't paid for that.
Yeah.
It's been organic.
Yeah.
It is a wider audience, but now it's a matter of taking that, and this is the conversion process of moving somebody from being that stranger, whether we're getting it from a Facebook ad lead, we're getting it from podcast, from video, whatever we're doing. It's a matter of taking that person now and moving them through that funnel process where they're now becoming what I sort of coin as like group 1, group 2 being the strangers, group 1 being the people who know us, like us, trust us. We've got to have some conversion process there, right? So there's got to be that multi-channel approach. That how are we taking that now, this lead, this new eyeball, this new ears, whatever, and turning that into a potential opportunity? And we had a question about that yesterday where somebody said, I'm not seeing business directly when I post something on Facebook. And we're like, no, you've got it right wrong. It's not like post on Facebook and reap in the dollars, right? It doesn't work that way. But so, and I mean, kind of just staying on time here, we've talked branding, we've talked content, we've talked voice, we've talked flash briefings, all amazing advice. I have to turn and ask you about video because all of us at this table do a lot of video. We do it, I think, pretty like easily, seamlessly. Like it's something we just do. We can click record and go, and like we really just don't even think about it anymore. Stories, Instagram stories, Facebook stories, I think are incredibly powerful. We talk about speed and user experience, like they're right at the top. It's so easy to get to. And to me, it's an amazing, amazing mindshare building tool because you're always visible. Like at minimum, one piece of content every 24 hours, you are right there. Chelsea, the queen of like stories on Insta, and I love watching them. But hey, there's a way that, we get together here in Arizona, haven't seen each other since, in 6 months, a year, whatever it is, since we were at the last conference maybe together. But it's almost like we're talking every day, right? Tell me a little bit, or tell everybody here a little bit about the power stories, or just maybe like something they can learn from it, or what to do. I'm always pushing, get there and do it,
So stories is new for a lot of people, and they're like, I just don't really get it. So if you haven't been in the world of stories for a while, you may just sort of be wondering, what the heck is happening? And it's important because it's really about three things. It's about CRM. It's camera first, it's real time, it's message enabled. Anything that gives you those things, whether it's Facebook Live, whether it's stories, whether it's Snapchat, that's what made the big shift. And when I look at social media, I like to look at it from the science behind it. I like to look at it from the behavioral change, because like Frazier just talked about, we're talking about Amazon and Uber, and now we have those expectations around what we expect people to see. And to be honest, we now expect, because we're used to seeing live videos and stories, we expect everybody to have their own television show, their own reality show, which is scary for a lot of people, because especially, if you're private, you don't want to put your life out there. And we're not saying you have to, but being able to take people along on your day-to-day basis, and I always say there's magic in the mundane. Believe it or not, one of my best Instagram stories had to do with what Kleenex box you prefer. Is it rectangle or square?
Oh my God, I love it. You see? Did everybody just hear that?
Yeah.
She's a marketing, branding expert, social media expert. She's talking about Kleenex boxes. So you guys are wondering about what kind of content to put out there? And I'm not mocking that. It's real.
I did it to prove a point. And the point is this, that people really do. We are fascinated, but we are a species where we are fascinated by watching other people. I love to people watch at the airport. It's a thing I like to do. A lot of people just like to watch what people are doing. And as you're watching them and you find one little thing, I spent years making tips every single day, how-tos, tutorials. I was teaching people to build brand and make money, and they would comment about the color of nail polish I was wearing. And I'm like, I just told you how to bring in 5 extra transactions this month, but you're fascinated by the color that I just got my nails painted. So yes, that was valuable, and people really listen now to the tips that I give because they like me as a human.
Yeah.
So now, because they like me as a human, they really are listening. And I go really deep with the community. I'm not very wide. I don't have 1 million followers or 1 million community members or 1 million friends. But the people that I do have, if I said, you need to go follow this person and here's why, you need to go buy this book and here's why, they will do it because they like me as a person and feel like they're in my world. The biggest compliment I get all the time is, oh my gosh, I feel like we're friends and I feel like I already know you. I say, you do know me. I choose to be a little bit more, out there with my life, and you get to see and be a part of it. So if you're watching my story, today or yesterday or tomorrow, you get to see what I'm doing. So the people who get to watch today get to see what we're doing now. They get to see me getting ready for stage, and they feel like they're on that journey with me. And so that's a really, I think, powerful and very, very heavy responsibility-laden thing where you have to really think about, what do you want to do with your brand? Do you want to inspire people? Do you want to be positive? I could be negative. I could go on there and complain all the time. I could talk about politics. I don't talk about any of those things.
Stay away.
It's really about, what do I want my legacy to be when I, at the end of the world where, people thought, wow, thank you for leading with the person in mind. Talking about yourself on social media too, we talk about content. If you just took out I and started making posts about questions, how can I help you? What do you like? What do you think? That will engage people and bring them in. Yeah. So it's a pretty awesome way for me to connect with people. I love it.
I remember that. I mean, when I picked your brain about that some time ago, and it was like stories, and we were talking about that, and I remember, verbatim how it was said. I don't recall, but it was that idea of you're storying. Like, it's literally exactly the definition of what it is. It is a story. Mm-hmm. Tell people about what you're doing, how you're doing it. What was the lead up to going to speak on stage today? Like, what did we do?
Right.
Like, depending on how deep you want to go or how open you want to go. But no, listen, from a time perspective, this has been absolutely amazing. I thank you guys tremendously. Are there any closing thoughts that anybody wants to throw in here? I know that we could all sit here and rap all day long. Is there anything that anybody sort of has top of mind that maybe was just
closing thoughts on conversion process? That everyone should take away that Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of these tools are not necessarily there's no longer the linear funnel. So the funnel is no longer linear to you take this action, you post this, right, and then you're going to be able to generate a sale. It's now a sideways tornado. And in that sideways tornado, the decision cycle within it goes much deeper, much longer. And there's all these things of voice, right? There's Instagram, there's text, there's email, all these various amounts of digital snacking within the middle of the funnel that create influence and persuasion that eventually lead people down the path to converting. So that's the process that we really need to think is they need to nurture with your brand and content during that process there.
Yeah, no, great advice, and I agree completely. Right, like it's coming from all angles, and it's a matter of being there. And I mean, there's the big thing around again, building mindshare is always about being present. So. Anything there, Jay? Because I know you've always got some good closing words. Anything you want to throw in?
Always is a stretch.
Always.
I mean, he sometimes does.
For the most part, I do.
You know what? I want to take a moment and turn this into the Dustin Jason show for a second. I think everybody who hasn't paid attention to this one really needs to be let into this. No, guys, thank you. Really, really, really appreciate everybody joining me on the Mindshare podcast today. Thank you, guys.
You bet.
Yeah, thank you. Loved it.
That was awesome. You're either listening to this on iTunes, Google Podcast, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to industrysyndicate.com or even mindshare101.com. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for listening.